Welcome to Discovering. Put your feet up and the remote control down. We've got a full show this evening. I met up with some lucky hunters who bagged their bucks in the first few days of season. And we'll take a trip to Escanaba for the annual Trails and Tales deer poll, where we'll get a look at some nice bucks and hear the stories that go along with them.
It's my first buck. It was about 5:15.
We'll also get some tips from Tim Grenchen of North Country Legends Taxidermy about how to cape your deer if you're planning on a head mount.
This is an area a lot of guys have issues with, and that's cutting it too short here.
Stick around, that's all tonight right here on Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Well, deer season kicked off, and for me, that means camp. I didn't have far to go to find some lucky hunters. My son and a couple of his friends connected on opening morning.
So it was about 7:30, I'd say, and saw some does running around down the hill to the left of me, and then I saw some horns, so I threw up the gun. He was behind a tree at first and just sitting there. I could see him in the scope. Then he turned and started running down the hill, and I picked out a couple spots, but I knew it was more than 125 yards out. So one spot I picked out, I wasn't ready, and picked the next one and decided that was my shot and took it. Didn't see him after that. So then I waited a few minutes and walked down there, and then I saw him laying down the hill. And
yeah, so I had a short morning this morning, that's for sure. That's why it's got no body attached to it. Took care of it right away, but got out to the post. It was just getting light out, could barely see anything, and threw some bait out there, sat down. I hunt with my grandpa, Ron the Grave, and huge thanks to him for baiting for me and everything out there at his post. But we sat down and started looking at the deer way off in the pile, and my grandpa starts tapping me, and he said, "That's a big deer back there." So I kept an eye on it, too dark to really see what it was, and kept tapping me, and he's looking through binoculars. He handed them over my way. Finally got a look on it, could tell that had some points, really too dark to tell how many points it had, and sat there and watched it for probably a good 10-15 minutes, as long as we really could, before it started to head off away. And I didn't know exactly how big it was, but decided, well, I better take the shot now, because I was either now or never, and fired away and dropped it right there on the spot. Came up and happy to see a nice 9-pointer, 12.5, almost 13 inside spread. Came out of Faithorn, Michigan.
So I was sitting at my blind in the hardwoods, and pretty quiet, no noise or nothing. And all of a sudden I heard some rustling to my left, and I see this guy coming through. Came in all by himself, no does. I put down some doe estrus, and that's the only thing he could have been coming for. And he's coming down the valley, and then he was getting at about 10 o'clock from my perspective where I was sitting. And all of a sudden he picks his head up and he smells me, and I could tell I was screwed. He started running directly away from me, so I got the scope up on him, and I was following him, hoping and praying he's gonna stop, and I get a shot. Finally he stops right at the top of the ridge, and he turns back and looks at me, and just through the trees I was looking around one big tree that was real close to me and a lot of branches further down between me and him, and had a shot perfectly right at his shoulder. So I was like, I gotta pull the trigger. Hope and pray that I don't miss. And took a nice shot and took him right through the top of the heart. He ran about 30-40 yards down a couple of hills and found him in a little hole. It was just under 16, about 16 inches wide. Back tines are about 8.5 inches. Hunting out of Feed the Crows Lodge out of Hermansville, Michigan.
Well, tonight we're honored to say for almost 20 years we've been doing the deer poll, and again being this year hosted by Hilltop RV Superstores. The nicest part, of course, they put us in one of these beautiful R-Pod trailers tonight, one of the campers that they have out here at Hilltop, and it's so nice and comfortable to be inside doing this stuff. But more importantly, it gives us a chance to get back out, because the carnival atmosphere we have with all of the families and friends that are here tonight, all of the kids, it's loud out there, and it's because everybody's having a good time. Everybody's here to talk about the hunt. And when you got people like yourself, Brian, we got Richard P. Smith, outdoor writer photographer here doing a demonstration showing his wares. We've got people from UP Whitetails. We've got people from Commemorative Bucks in Michigan. The DNR's out here registering there. They're in the mid-30s right now and how many deer they've brought in tonight. So it is absolutely the type of fellowship we'd hope to have out here with the Hilltop folks. And we plan on doing it again, of course. A nice year as far as temperature, but we're also finding out how the deer are rebounding, what people are saying. Pocket areas are void, pocket areas are showing real good response, and of course the rut is on. All of this is part and parcel of what hunting is all about. It's kind of a culmination of the first part of this season, so it's an absolute honor to do this for 19 years. And again, our thanks to all of the people that make it possible.
Well, we were watching this unicorn three-pointer come running across the field. My grandpa said he was walking down the field line on my side, but then he hopped in the woods. Then I looked out the side to see if there's any deer in my uncle's field, but then I thought it was the unicorn buck. But then all of a sudden, my grandpa puts up his binocular, he said, "It's a big buck, get ready to shoot him." So he's chasing this doe. Then my grandpa wanted to use a grunt call to stop him, but I knew he was gonna stop for something. Then he stopped, so I shot him. Then he ran to the edge of the fence line. I shot him again. I missed that shot. Then he hopped in the woods. Then I chased him down. Then we found him again. Then I shot him in the neck. And the funny thing is, I missed him opening day. Then he came out on. My mom called that he was gonna come back on the 16th. So I shot him yesterday evening.
It's my first buck. It was about 5:15. There's two does in the bait pile. They were both looking over to our right. I look over and I see these three horns, and I just told my dad it's a big one. So when it came in, it didn't really stop. So it was about 50 yards. Took a shot, and then it ran about 50. Went out, found it, and the rest is history.
I met up with Tim Grinch, an award-winning taxidermist from North Country Legends Taxidermy in Gladstone, and got a bit of info about caping out your deer if you're planning on a head mount.
I just want to demonstrate real quick, especially with the concerns about CWD that are coming down. If you're a hunter that goes out of state, there's also a couple Canadian provinces on the list. What you're going to have to do is cape out the animal before you bring it back into the state of Michigan. So it's going to do a real quick tutorial, kind of covering the basics of where some guys have some issues when they're trying to cape the animal. If you can, it's always best to skin the whole hide down. You know, just hang it from the hinds and peel it down. When you mount a deer, you really only need about from here forward, okay? So here's our rib cage, the back of the rib cage. I'm going to say midpoint back on the rib cage. That's a little bit more than I need, but I'd rather have too much than not enough, okay? Now, when you're peeling it forward, this is an area a lot of guys have issues with, and that's cutting it too short here, and that's messing up in the brisket area, okay? So what you want to do when you're peeling it down, you want to leave the skin all the way from the knee up, okay? So make a ring cut here around the knee, and then do that on both sides. And then what you do, and this is important because this is where a lot of guys mess up. Okay, you can see right here where the brown hair comes around from the outside, the white hair comes from the inside. There's a ridge right here. You want to stay right on that line, cut right here, making all your cuts right in that long hair. When you get back here, it's going to be a little bit difficult to see, but there's a cowlick right here in the armpit, okay? You're going to continue your cut right through here and then just taper it back. Okay, you can even come back to, it would be ideal to just take it back to where the field dressing cut ended. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing on this leg. You're going to ring around here, stay right in this line and that long hair right here through this cowlick and then back to here. So you're going to end up with a big triangular flap. Okay, but that, because I'll say it again, that's where a lot of guys mess up, is in this area. They'll come around here and they'll cut through this cowlick, okay? And there's so many intricate hair patterns there. Can you sew it? Absolutely, but it's hard to hide the stitches when you got the hair switching directions so many times like that. Okay, and then when you peel it down, continue peeling it down, it's gonna get real difficult, especially on a buck that's rutted up like Storm's buck here. It's gonna be hard once you get past about here to peel that neck anymore. At that point, you can just cut it off. I mean, if you're coming from a state where there's CWD, you're gonna have to actually have the deer caped all the way out. And I'm gonna put up a video on my Facebook page that shows you how to do that. And it's always best, if you have any questions whatsoever, you can call me, you can call your taxidermist. Just make sure you feel comfortable before you leave, that you know what you're gonna do, because you'd hate to mess it up. And it's, in some cases, it really can't be fixed. So by all means, if you got a question, if you're not comfortable, get comfortable before you go west and go on your hunt. So.
Opening morning, I had this nice 10-point walk into my bait pile about 20 after 8, and he was chasing a doe, and I only got to see him for he only gave me about 10 or 12 seconds before I had to pick my spot and shoot him in the front shoulders. He ran about 20 yards after I shot him, and it's the biggest buck I've ever shot or ever seen in my scope. Haven't seen him all year, nothing on the camera. I had a bunch of little bucks all year, and just lucky. The guys here scored him at 147.1.
Well, I was just hunting out in the Hiawatha, north of Rapid River, and about 10:15 it came in, and all I could see was his head and his horns and his butt, so I had to wait a little bit, and it seemed like forever, but about 10 minutes he finally went forward a little bit and gave me a clear shot at his neck, and took the shot and it dropped right there. Pretty exciting. Yeah, the buck is 18-inch outside spread, 10-pointer, scored out at 143. Weighed about 170 pounds.
We'll be back with more from the Trails and Tales deer poll shortly. I took a drive not far down the road from our camp to Camp Lone Pine, where the guys were enjoying some success of their own.
Sitting opening morning and watching a few does come in. And this guy came in about 20 after 7. Shot him was about 7:30. Took off to my left after I shot him and thought, here we go again. I've got a little bit of a history of needing some tracking, and couldn't help but notice none of the guys volunteered to come help and look after last year walking through the swamp and all the water, so had to go look for myself. And he went about 40 yards and found him laying in the leaves after he'd been thrashing around, so it felt good to send him a picture without everybody being all wet.
A lot of deer in this morning. They were going back and forth through the bait pile, and all of a sudden they just started scattering all over the place. And me being me, not paying attention, and looked up and seen this one coming through the brush, and had one open shot and shot, and he went down, but he got up a couple different times, but he did eventually go down. So
I was in early at 5:45, sitting in the blind, just hanging out, and had a doe come in bright and early when it was still dark, and then a little bit after that, I had this guy come in early light, about 6:30. Kind of messed around a little bit. I was all set to shoot him, and the doe walked right in front, dropped him in his tracks. Nothing much to it. First thing this morning, guys were still getting to their blinds, and I was knocking down deer, so not a bad day. He's an 8-pointer, I think about 15 inches wide, not real wide, but a little bit of girth to him, so heavy deer.
Yeah, so this morning I was sitting there and doe came in and she sat in my bait pile for a while, and she was pretty busy eating, and she kept looking to the north of me, or to the left of me, which is to the north. And soon, a little bit later, a little small 6 or small 8 came in, and I wish my son was with me because he's 12 years old and he's really looking for his first buck. And I thought that'd be a perfect one for him to shoot. And then this guy came in kind of from the same direction, and he was walking away from me, and I just saw his horns was much wider than his ears. And I thought, well, it's definitely a shooting buck. Well, when he came in, he kicked off the 6-point, and his head was behind the tree and stuff, so all I could see was his body from behind his shoulders, and I knew that was my shot. So I took the shot, and I thought for sure I missed it. There was no fur, no blood, no nothing. But he came up, he ran up above the maple ridge from me to the left, and he kind of veered off away from me. And I thought for sure he was long gone, because didn't seem like he was phased one bit at all. I went and put all my stuff back in my car, and I thought, well, I'm gonna go walk through there and just see if I can see him just for the heck of it. And I walked up over the hill and the bridge, and sure enough, there I saw him laying down in the grass, and all I saw was his body. Then I saw his horns, and I was like, yeah, he was definitely a shooting buck. Yeah, I thought for sure it was, I missed it. I mean, it went from emotional low to emotional high, just from a few minutes of walking through the woods. Texted all the guys, which is now the common thing to do, and sent some pictures, and then Dave came and helped me haul it out, and here it is. 10-pointer, could have been 11 with one broken off. It must have been from fighting here. It's about 20-inch spread on it. It's definitely the biggest buck I got in my life.
Oleski from Kearney, come on up. All right, he said no way. That means he's refusing the gun, right? Carl, congratulations. Tell me what you got.
I got a 8-point.
When did you get your deer?
Opening morning.
Opening morning. Was it worth the wait bringing them in here?
It was. Yes, it was. It was awesome.
Well, we appreciate that you came out here, and this is not a bad deal tonight. Hold that up for everybody to see, and we want to get your picture. There's your winner of the adult gun, Carl Oleski from Kearney, Michigan. That's a genuine smile. Thank you, Carl. That's all your stuff right there in the box. There you go, sir. You did it. You did it. Tell us about your deer.
Well, it was actually a pretty big surprise because I haven't seen that deer all year. It was a great surprise. I actually all year the biggest buck I've seen was a little scrub buck 5 or a 6-pointer. So when he came in chasing a doe, I was pretty happy.
And that chance paid off for you tonight. And did you come in thinking you had a shot at the big buck?
Honestly, I wasn't sure. Everybody else was telling me that I had to get here, so I guess they were right.
Well, thanks for your friends for telling you to get here, because you made a difference tonight. 147 1/8. There's your winner tonight, Big Buck Dave Royer. We're going to get you that certificate from North Country Legends Taxidermy. Thank you. And I know you talked to Tim already.
It's deer season, and well, we like to look at deer. The Trails and Tales Deer Poll is certainly a great place to do that. I'll leave you with a look at some of the nice bucks from deer polls of the past. Well, that's it for tonight. If you'd like to keep tabs on what's coming up on Discovering or see where we've been, go to 906outdoors.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week right here on Discovering.